All right, let's talk about the PR2 reticle here. In a PRS context, what I've got here is we're going to be looking at these targets A, B, C, D, E. Each of these are about 1.6 mils or 1.6 MOA wide, which are pretty small targets for PRS. Usually they're about 2 MOA. But here we are here. These correspond to the numbers here. A is at 350 yards, dialing 1.3. So the PR2, in typical Leupold fashion, decides that 0.2 hashes are not what they want. They want a 0.25. So we have our dot here, gives us 0, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, 1, or sorry, yeah, that's 1, 1.25, 1.5, 1.75, etc. You see here it comes down. We've got a couple of dots here to reference. They're pretty small, but they are there to help us out when we need to use that Christmas tree. So let's talk about some of these examples of how this would work. Let's say we're going to shoot at A, which is 1.3 mils away, and we are dialed to 1.3. Let's say there's a 5 mile per hour wind. It's probably going to be, like a 0.25. Let's have it be a left to right wind, so we're going to hold into the wind. Let's hold a 0.2, which is what everyone's going to be talking about when you're sharing wind holds. They say, I hold 0.2 left. So we're going to have to kind of guess. It's not that big of a deal. 0.25 isn't going to be that much of a difference. You might even just say, let's hold a 0.25 right there into the wind. You can hold a 0.5, you can hold 0.75, you can hold a 1, etc. So that's how that works. Just to cover that for anybody that's not familiar with it. What I like about this reticle is how thick the lines are and how easy it is to check this 0.5 versus the 0.25, the 0.75. One goes down, one goes up. It's pretty easy to read. Compare that with a Tremor 3, you notice that 0.25, 0.25, 0.5, sorry, I'm still thinking of Leupold. 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, those are all the same length. They're all going down. They're pretty easy to get lost in there. If I'm holding here, especially with my eyes, I have a hard time differentiating that 0.6 and the 0.8. I can get lost in the reticle pretty easily that way. So, stuff like the MIL-XT reticle here has down, up, up, down. Makes it a lot easier to tell. What's even better than that is how the PR2 says down, up, down, and then mil mark. Makes it super easy to read. I like that about this and the JVCR. That's why I bought a USO with the JVCR, because it does the similar thing. I just like the way that works. So let's talk about how to use the Christmas tree. Let's say we're on a no dial stage here. So we're going to hold 1.3 here. We're going to come up to 1.3, right about there, and hold that. We'll say boom. We'll go to the next target, which is 2.4. So we'll hold that 2.4 over B. Boom. Next target is 3.7. So we go to 3.7. So it gets a little bit harder to tell. 3.7 right there. And boom. Where this reticle has a little bit of a failing for me is that it's a little too open, honestly. So if I come over here and let's say we have 12 miles per hour wind, it's not so bad at 350 yards where we're doing 1.3. So let's go over here to 1.3. And we need to hold, what is that? That's going to be probably that's probably be a half. Yeah, we'd probably need to hold wind about here. In Utah, this is how we do it. There's lots of wind a lot of the matches I go to, so we're going to be holding out here. That's a lot of open space. There are a couple marks here, this one and this one, to reference off of, but those get washed out pretty darn easily. So let's do that. We're going to do this 1.3 all the way out here at 0.8. We'll go to 500 yards now at 2.4. 2.4, and right about here we're going to hold basically a mil, and then we're going to go to 3.7. 3.7 puts us out here at about a mil and a half. I'm grateful that we have some lines here because this will give us a good point of reference. Say, okay, That's about 1.2 hold. So that was D. Nope, that was supposed to be C. D is supposed to be 5.1. So let's go to D is 5.1. 5.1 is going to be right here. So these dots do help quite a bit if I can see them. I wish they were a little bit easier to see, but they are sufficient to get a 1.4 in there. Yeah. And then, honestly, having something way out there like this E at 950 on a no dial stage is not likely to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm not a match director. It could happen. So let's do our 6.8 right here. 6.8, and we'll probably be holding 1.5 mil at this point. Once again, that dot right there just saved us because I could use that as a reference point. Another example that we can do is, let's say we have a stage that calls for us to shoot A, B, and C, and they're all fairly close together, even though they're not in my example. But they don't have to be close together. I've seen matches like this before. So we have A, B, and C. Let's say I'm going to dial 1.3 right here so that I don't have to hold 1.3. So I've got 1.3. This one will become 1.1. I should write this out. Yeah, let's just do that. So let's call this one, we've dialed 1.3, so this is going to be holding 1.1, and we're going to shoot A and B. So we'll come up here, I'll shoot A, and then I will hold 1.1 to shoot B. 1.1, 0, and 1.1. Because I've dialed that 1.3, I'm just holding the difference on 2. So where this gets tricky is if we have a lot of wind. I might be shooting, let's say we've got 15 to 20 miles per hour wind, which is not uncommon in Utah. So let's say we're holding let's hold 0.8 on the first one and 1 mil on the second. So we're going to shoot right here, boom, and then we're going to come up here at 1.1 and shoot boom. These dots, once again, are saving us quite a bit of trouble by being able to see this. I prefer my Christmas tree to be filled out just a little bit more in here because of this particular example. I can get lost in open space out here when I'm shooting at B. Thankfully, we have some dots, but honestly, when I'm looking at my reticle, there's all the stuff going on. It's easy to get lost and to not see those little dots because those little dots are much thinner than the rest of the reticle. PR2 reticle is very easy to read, very easy to pick up that center dot, very easy to read your windage. I like the PR2. If the PR2 had been out when I was shopping for a scope last year, I would have bought one. Yeah, that's the PR2 reticle. Thanks, guys.